everyone, thanks for clicking on today's video. My name is Sissy and I love arts and crafts and sharing my silly thoughts on random things. In today's background video, I'm knitting another pair of gloves. I know the last pair you saw me make were mittens, but I categorized them the same. But these are classic gloves that are simple yet useful. My husband's job requires him to be in both indoor and outdoor locations, and he often works the grave shift, so he asked me to make him some gloves in a soft navy blue yarn. I wanted to find something that was fairly straightforward, and I measured his fingers so that I could get a fairly accurate fit. These gloves weren't terribly difficult to make. However, you will notice that this project was a little chaotic. I couldn't for the life of me find all of my stitch holders. They're probably on some other project that I started but didn't finish because that happens more than I'd like to admit. So instead of just getting more, mostly because I wanted to get these gloves finished, and I was probably, let's just call it what it is, I was being lazy. I took some circular needles, put some stoppers on the ends, and used them as stitch holders. Were they completely inconvenient and in my way the entire time? Yeah, of course, but they worked. Other than that, this pattern came out nicely. The pattern is by Drops Design and called Kellen number 174-4, and I will link the pattern down below if you're interested in trying it. I'm sure you've noticed a trend in my choosing Drops Designs. This is not a promotion or anything, I'm not sponsored. I just wanted to share that I really do love these patterns. They're free to use, easy to follow with a range of beginner to advanced patterns, and they have some of the most gorgeous sweaters and shawls I've ever seen. So, if you're an avid knitter, check them out. Today's topic will probably be at least two parts, as I have a lot of stories to share, so I hope you like it. Today is part one about the adventures my family had when I was a kid as we RV'd around the country. In 2001, a great tragedy occurred that shook the nation. Pretty much everyone's lives were affected in one way or another, and I'm pretty sure, if asked, any one of us could tell you what we were doing that day and how our lives were affected. Well, like so many people, travel was one big thing that affected everyone, including my family. That September, my youngest brother was about to turn a year old, and we were going to fly across the country to Disney World in Florida, about a 6 hour flight, to celebrate his birthday. That didn't happen, obviously, but my parents were still determined to go. So, what could we do? Like many of the time, we discovered traveling in a recreational vehicle, or RV for short. The first time we took an RV, it was interesting. We cramped our 6 member family plus my grandparents into a fairly tiny Class A RV. It's technically the large class, but this was definitely not a particularly large one. And drove the week it took to get to Florida from where we were living, and it was an event, let me tell you. My brothers were all young. At the time, I was practically a teenager, so I was obviously all grown up, with my youngest brother, like I said, barely even a year old. We also really didn't know what we were doing. We didn't tow a vehicle, so it limited us on where we could drive. We ended up booking hotels every single night on the way there and back because my mom was nervous about us all sleeping in the RV. To be fair, 8 people in one RV is a lot. And I just remember that trip playing board games endlessly, helping to keep my brothers entertained, hollering at my parents anytime one of us got up to use the bathroom so my dad wouldn't drive too bumpy on the road. Like he could help it. Plus, with my dad driving and the rest of us totally bored, we were all getting up to pee pretty much constantly, poor dad. And almost always eating at Cracker Barrel on a pretty much daily basis because that is one of the few restaurants that has RV parking. In spite of our woes on that first trip, we decided it'd be fun to rent another one and do it again the next year. Ah, the next year. Have you guys ever seen the movie RV starring Robin Williams? Not only is that a classic, it pretty much describes one of our rental adventures to a T. I'm not even kidding. From the loud, obnoxious RV rolling into the driveway at the start of the trip, to the mom echoing the same sentiments of my own mother with, we aren't friendly people when it came to running into unique campers at the RV camps, because this time, in order to save money, we decided to stay at RV camps along the way to and from our destination, which was, I think, Virginia this time, to the infamous septic tank scene. Yeah, this time we still did not tow a vehicle. For those of you who do RVing a lot, do you agree that it's important to tow a vehicle so you aren't basically stuck in the RV? So we didn't have to worry about that this trip. My brothers were still little and my grandparents still came along. As a kid, my brothers and I thought the RV camps were a lot of fun because you met all sorts of people and visited unique places and had a lot of fun living the camper lifestyle. During this trip and every RV trip after, I'm actually surprised looking back that my parents persevered in road trips. I helped my dad a lot. He was the sole driver because my mom didn't want to do it, my grandparents didn't want to do it, and I wasn't old enough. Otherwise, I totally would have done it. Driving a massive vehicle on the road where you can see eye to eye with truckers and honk a big old horn? Yes, please. Anyway, during this particular trip, I don't know what happened, but the rental company decided to give us an RV that was literally on its last legs. We had to put blocks around the tires anytime we would stop anywhere, gas station, camp, lunch, etc., where I would jump in behind my dad in the driver's seat and put all 80 pounds of me onto the brake, and he would run out and shove the blocks around the tires as fast as he could. I remember the engine kept making funny noises and would clunk every now and again, but we were making good time. At one point, we were at a campground not even 2 days in the black tank, the icky sewer tank, for those of you familiar with camping vehicles, said it was full. Well, that was weird. We had a strict policy of only pooping at stops, not on the RV, because we didn't want the smells to permeate the RV. So, of course, my dad thought it was weird that that tank would be full, even with all of us in the RV. So, my dad and I hopped out to empty the tank because I was an avid, I'll be naive volunteer, eager to help him, and my brothers were either too young or too disinterested. We happily hooked up the hose to the dump in the ground, and my dad opened the tank. When I tell you the smell and the explosion, look, it was not as exaggerated as the scene from RV, and fortunately, we did not get the coverage that they did in the movie, but I will say it was not unlike the scene in RV. It had been backed up and had not been our family's, stuff. Sorry, I'm trying to spare you the details, but basically, it had kind of a mini explosion. We did get some backsplash. This tank had not been emptied for some time, and I will never forget the smell. I remember my mom did not let either one of us back onto the RV until we had literally been hosed down, clothes and all. Again, as a kid, it was fun. Looking back now, I would probably still go out to help my dad, but I don't think I would find it fun. By day 6 or 7, our rickety old RV had made it, just made it, over the border to Virginia. On the borderline, it decided it had had enough. It just stopped working and we crawled to a halt. We had pushed it that day because we were eager to get to our destination. Normally, we would drive about 400 to 500 miles a day, take it kind of leisurely so that we could set up camp in daylight, have a nice dinner, get everyone ready for bed, and not rush first thing in the morning. However, it was already dark. We were pushing 600 miles and we were all tired and so done. My dad pulled over as much as he could on the side of the road in the middle of the woods, no light of any kind. There was a steep embankment that went down the side of the freeway into the woods, and if I had been an adult, I would have been very wary of those dark woods. Although it was a freeway, it was not particularly busy. It was a weekend, I think, and not a densely populated area. Did I mention we had like a cell phone among us and it had no signal? So my dad by himself started walking into town to try and find something or someone. In the meantime, we could still get electricity on inside the RV, so my mom gave my youngest brother a bath in the sink. For some reason, I don't know. I think he had just hadn't been feeling well and got sick all over himself, which just adds to the frustrations. My grandmother was just chilling in the RV. My grandfather got out and started walking around the wooded area, telling us there could be all sorts of scary things in there. Thanks, Grandpa. And my other brothers and I just kind of hung out. After what seemed like forever, my father returned with a 15-passenger van because that's what could fit us. We helped my mom pack up what we could, get everyone into the van, drove the rest of the way. This time it was pretty late to our timeshare that we had booked at the destination. I don't remember much of the vacation there, to be honest, but I remember the RV trip back. After this RV had been picked up, another RV had been given to us for our return trip. I thought the last RV had been a goner, but this one should have been taken to the junk heap years ago. For our drive home, we managed to make it, but we were stopped twice by cops on the drive back for items flying off the RV. I think pieces of antenna and bumper were falling off, and fortunately, the cops were very kind and just returned them to us. We had to pull over several times to duct tape said things back onto the RV. We didn't even go to the bathroom in this one at all because none of the indicator lights worked, and my dad didn't want to take any risks. And the RV died as my dad pulled into the return station at the rental place. Surprisingly, we ended up purchasing an RV the following year, but I don't think my grandparents ever came with us again. I'm going to end part one here. Like I said earlier, I have a lot of stories of having an RV in the family growing up, and I have to say, some of my fondest memories and favorite vacations were when we traveled across the country on the RV. I would love to know some of your favorite vacation memories as a kid. Did you guys go RVing or were you avid campers? And if you camped, were you hardcore, like legit living off the land campers, or were you more glampers? I would love to read your stories. I hope you enjoyed this video and thank you so much for listening. Please like and subscribe. Have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you again soon.